Welcome. I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. For all my YouTube viewers, clearly, as you can see, I'm not home right now. Because of work, I am not home right now. And we got to, get the ball rolling somehow. So I'm not home. So what we'll start this week is, of course, the divisional championship games. You have the Bengals, you have Kansas City Chiefs, you have the San Francisco 49ers, and you have the LA Rams. Let's start with the first game that we'll get, which is the Bengals and the Chiefs. To say, and I've said this almost every week, to say that I'm surprised and shocked that the Bengals are here, it would be an understatement. First and foremost, I knew Joe Burrow was good. I knew Jamar Chase had a chance to be good, and they have some really good pieces. I mean, but when you talk about the division, when you talk about the conference, I just felt like the Bengals weren't there yet, and boy was I wrong, man. But I'm happy for the Bengals. I'm happy for the Bengals. Especially, Joe Burrow gets hurt last year. Jamar Chase in the horrible fumbles, not fumbles, like the non-catches that he was dealing with in the preseason. I didn't think they would get here, but I'm happy for them, and they deserve to be here. They've played some really good games. They beat number one seed in the conference and the Tennessee Titans, and they have played their way here. Jamar Chase has been great. Joe Burrow's been great. Joe Mixon has been great. And the one thing, especially last week, the one thing that they have struggled with the most, the two things they struggle with the most is the offensive line and the defense. Now, their offensive line was horrible last week. Joe Burrow he was sacked 9 times. And that's even surprising to me. The fact that Joe Burrow can get sacked 9 times and still win the game is crazy. I think that's a lot to do with the Cincinnati Bengals, but there's a little bit to do with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, again, Ryan Tannehill had 3 poor turnovers, especially one to start the game. But the offensive line was horrible for the Cincinnati Bengals last week, and their defense has struggled all year. However, their defense, like I said, came to play last week. They had 3 huge turnovers against Ryan Tannehill, and even though they Derrick Henry coming back from injury, he did score, and AJ Brown scored on an incredible pass by Ryan Tannehill. But all in all, they were able to keep the Tennessee Titans in check. So before I talk about, Cincinnati or Kansas City Chiefs, let's talk about how the Cincinnati Bengals can win this game. Or, I'm going to say how they can win the game for each team, how this team can win the game. I'm going to say they're probably their biggest flaw. And I'm also going to give the X factor that's not the quarterback. How can Cincinnati Bengals win this game? First and foremost, they played the Kansas City Chiefs later into, I think it was week 16, I believe. They played the Kansas City Chiefs, and one thing that Joe Burrow is able to do very well, and that is seize the moment, especially if a player is injured, especially if you're going against a poor secondary, especially if you have the superior, your offensive squad is better than their defensive squad. And for some reason, the Kansas City Chiefs kept single coveraging Jamar Chase. I don't know why. I think it was kind of like ego thing, because I remember their offense or defensive coordinator was like, we don't need a single cover Jamar Chase. It doesn't make sense. Jamar Chase lit them up for like 249 yards or something like that. So the way that they could win this game, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals, is use what you have best. The Cincinnati Bengals offensive weapons, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, the tight ends, Tyler Boyd, they are better than the Chiefs secondary. And if he's able to keep hitting those, keep getting the wide receivers at their best points or the places that make, that they're best at, some slant routes or some goal routes, they will be successful. The Cincinnati Bengals, they don't want to get into, their defense has to be big. Their defense has to be big. And the Cincinnati Bengals have to utilize Jamar Chase and his speed, T. Higgins and his size, Tyler Boyd in his hand. You need to be able to utilize that, and you have to. Your defense has to be big. It was big last week. However, you're playing against. Last week you played against Ryan Tannehill, and while Tannehill is a good quarterback, Ryan Tannehill for sure is not Patrick Mahomes. So you're gonna have to come big. I'm not saying you have to get 3 interceptions again, but you can't let it be a shootout. While Cincinnati Bengals can win in a shootout, this Kansas City Chiefs team is not the same Kansas City Chiefs team they saw just a couple weeks ago. They have their bravado. They just they had an incredible game against the Bills. Their energy's up because they smell that they smell making it to their third straight in NBA third straight Super Bowl. The last thing that you want to do is have or be in a shootout with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. You do not want to do that. So their defense has to be big, and their offense, they have to utilize what they're best at. Joe Mixon, even though Joe, I don't know how big, especially running the ball, Joe Mixon will have, seeing as though the Kansas City Chiefs run defense has improved. However, if he can get some catches in the slants, get some catches in the flats, that could help this offense, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. Who's the X factor? To me, the X factor is the defense, the secondary of the defense, because it's a tall task going up against the Tyreek Hills, a tall task going up against Travis Kelce, but this is the task that they are tasked with. You're going to have to slow them down. I know it's easier said than done, seeing as though the Bills weren't able to do it. The Steelers weren't able to do it, but you're going to have to find a way to slow down Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. One of them can go off. But you can't have both. Both cannot have a good game, because when they have a good game, Patrick Mahomes has confidence, and when that's the case, it's a done deal. Make a McCole Harmon beat you, even though he can. Make McCole Harmon beat you. Make Pringle beat you. Make somebody of that stature. You cannot give Patrick Mahomes the ability to get hot with his favorite weapons. It's just not going to work. So the Cincinnati Bengals secondary is definitely the X factor in this game. And how can they lose this game? Because I didn't really do this last or for the divisional round, but how can they lose this game? Cincinnati Bengals can lose this game very easily. If their offensive line, I think the biggest reason why they were able to win, even though they gave up 9 sacks, is because Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans didn't capitalize. Derrick Henry was still, it was his first game back after a long stint due to injury and a foot injury at that. So he didn't have the same burst, and Ryan Tannehill didn't seize the moment. I do not foresee that happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs pass rush is not as good as the Tennessee Titans pass rush. However, if they get to if they get to Joe Burrow and sack him multiple times, I do not expect the Kansas City Chiefs to not capitalize. So if the way that the Bengals can lose this game is if they do not take care of or try to keep Joe Burrow as clean as possible, I'm not going to say they have no shot, but you're going against a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that's going to capitalize, because Ryan Tannehill did not capitalize. I do not foresee that with Patrick Mahomes. So that's how they can lose. Let's go over to the Kansas City Chiefs side. Kansas City Chiefs just had probably one of the best games in NFL history. Winning in overtime against the Bills, Patrick Mahomes against Josh Allen. It was one for the record books. And I understand right now you're at an all-time high. You're at an all-time high because you just beat probably, in my opinion, the best or the closest team to you, even though you did lose to Cincinnati in the regular season. To me, the Chiefs and the Bills, especially with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, they're pretty much the closest, and you just beat them. So I guess I'll start with this: how you can lose, and it's very easy to ride that high and kind of overlook the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I also understand that if they beat the Bengals, this will be their third straight Super Bowl. But I understand that you always see that. Well, you usually see it in college, but you always see that the college team that does the unthinkable. You know, they'll beat a Alabama, they'll beat a Georgia, they'll beat an Oklahoma, they'll beat one of the top teams like you'll see a Mississippi State beat an Alabama, and then next week they play an LSU and in a dogfight, or you'll see an Arizona beat Oregon, and then next week they're in a dogfight with Colorado. Because you kind of slay the conference Goliath, it's kind of hard to get up for the next game if the next game is not like a Super Bowl or something. However, and that to me is how the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm sorry, could lose this game. If they do not respect the Bengals as an actual conference championship, then and overlook them because it's like we just beat the Chiefs. I mean, we just beat the Bills. Now we're looking forward to either the 49ers or the Rams. They could definitely lose this game. Also, we need to see the status of Tyrann Mathieu because as we saw, they went at the secondary after Tyrann Mathieu went out. Now, I understand that's one person, but when he's one of the leaders of he is the leader of the secondary, and he went out with a concussion, is out. And as you saw, Gabriel Davis went crazy, had 4 touchdowns, which is an NFL record for one player in the playoffs. So if they gave up that much to Gabriel Davis, how do you, and if Tyrann Mathieu is not there, what do you think is going to happen when you're going up against, I mean, think about it. While you have Stephon Diggs is the superior wide receiver to both teams, and Gabriel Davis is good too, even though he's more underrated. What do you think that secondary is going to do with a Jamar Chase, a Tyler Boyd, a T. Higgins? Like that's not that's not, I don't no. So that secondary they have to be able to, kind of like how the Bengals secondary has to slow down a Tyreek Hill and the Travis Kelce. Kansas City Chiefs secondary has to be able to slow down Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which no one has been able to do all season. And like I said, you're going to have to respect this game, which I don't think they'll have a problem with because they've done this before. This will be, if they win this game, this will be their third straight Super Bowl. But you always have those moments where we just slayed the team that a lot of people didn't think we can do, or the game was a lot harder than we thought. And we're just going to overlook this team because we want to get to the Super Bowl. And the X factor has to be Tyrann Mathieu. I don't know how he's with the concussion and everything. I don't know how he's going to play. It's now you do get an extra day. I think they played on Saturday. Or was it Sunday? It was Sunday. It was Saturday. One of them days. They played on one of them days. So, hopefully you get him back. It didn't seem like that much of an injury, but you really never know with the concussion. But the X factor is Tyrann Mathieu. The last thing that you want is to go into a game where you have to go against those wide receivers and not have your captain in the secondary. So that is the X factor for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, who's going to win this game? And honestly, this is harder for me than I thought it would be. I thought it would be easy, Kansas City Chiefs. And while I'm still picking the Kansas City Chiefs to win, I'm not just writing off the Cincinnati Bengals. One, they beat them in the regular season, when I understand the regular season is not the playoffs, but you beat them in the last meeting. You have, Joe Burrow has played a lot better than I thought he would. You have the wide receivers to really break this secondary. And while the Kansas City Chiefs are playing a lot better than they were when they played the first time, what you want to do is keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. That's one thing that the Rams did so well against the Bucks until, of course, the whole turnovers and stuff. They were keeping Tom Brady off the field. If you control the time possession, means you're gonna have to be successful running the ball. You're gonna have to be successful passing the ball. If you're able to control the clock, the Cincinnati Bengals to me have a shot. However, you're going up against a red hot Kansas City Chiefs. You're going up against a team that's been here. You're going up against a team that's trying to have redemption from last year, even though they're not playing. They wouldn't play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl this year. They want to get back and redeem themselves from losing last year. I'm sorry. So I have Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. I just think you're catching them at the absolute worst time. You're catching them with Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. You're catching them when Tyreek Hill is at his high. You're catching them when all their best players are pretty much at their high outside of Tyrann Mathieu. And I think that we have to see moving forward. So I'm going to take Kansas City Chiefs in a close one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything because I respect the Bengals enough to say that they're going to be able to stay in it. But I have Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. Let's go over to the NFC. The 49ers and the Rams. Let's start with the 49ers. You know, it's funny. This 49ers team is a team that I predicted or I talked about in the preseason. Remember when I was talking about the NFC West? And I said that this will be probably the best conference in the NFL, or I'm sorry, the best division in the NFL. And I said one of the hardest teams to grade are the 49ers. And I said it was hard because I was either put them at 1 or 2. I ended up putting them at second with the Rams, but I said they were challenging because this team, when you look at the totality of the team, they only have one flaw, and that is you don't really know what you're getting week from Jimmy G. And of course, in the start of the season, and they, for some reason, the 49ers are always one of those teams that have so many injuries throughout the regular season, kind of like the Eagles. But they caught fire at the right time. They got healthy at the right time. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Jimmy G has been good or serviceable. Debo Samuels has probably been the MVP of this team. They've just George Kittle's been great. They've just caught fire at the right time, and their teams got healthy at the right time. Kyle Shanahan has been great as a coach. And of course, as we know, the 49ers and Rams have a history as far as Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. This is the matchup. Well, this isn't the matchup, of course, that we expected and probably won it, but I'm not surprised, seeing as though when you look at how this 49 team is constructed and the fact that their defense is so good and they have so many skilled players at different spots, I'm not surprised that they're here. I am surprised that they beat, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, especially in Lambeau, but it is what it is. Now, how could they win this game? They've already beat the Rams twice. They swept the season series. Now, this Rams team is different. Of course, the regular season and the playoffs are different, and this is a divisional rival. But the one thing that the 49ers have that the Rams don't is that level of physicality. Even though you have Aaron Donald, even though you have Von Miller, even though you have Jalen Ramsey, the 49ers like to play more of a smash mouth type of football, especially when they go against a finesse team like the Rams. And I think that's what they're going to try to do. In fact, you saw that the first 2 games they played this year, they were just more physically dominant than the Rams. Now, you didn't have Von Miller playing like he is, and you didn't have this defense because the Rams defense has been poor all year. Outside of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, all the other positions haven't been that good. And this is, they've kind of kicked it into gear in the postseason, but it's you still have the physical advantage in the 49ers. And Jimmy G just cannot turn the ball over. You saw the second game. The biggest play of the game actually was at the end when Matthew Stafford turned the ball over. You have to secure the ball. And as we know, Jimmy G is always going to give you one. The one thing that I saw last week when the 49ers played the Packers is while they did get a couple interceptions, they left like 2-3 more just out there. Like there was a couple times where if the defender played it right, if the defender ran through the pass, it probably could have been a pick six a couple times, and it didn't happen. And of course, that definitely would have changed or swayed it, or the game would have been different at that point. So we know Jimmy G is going to try to, going to throw it up there. It's just the Rams defense has to come down with it. And Jimmy G cannot give them extra possessions, especially this Rams team with that firepower that they have. If Jimmy G does not turn the ball over and the defense plays as physical as possible, like they usually do, they have a good chance of winning. How can they lose the game? Jimmy G turns the ball over. The last thing you want to do is give Matthew Stafford with Cooper Kupp and Cam Akers and Odell Beckham Jr. and Sonny Michel. You do not want to give them extra possessions. You do not want to give them more time on the field. In fact, this is the prime example of the way to beat this team, and that is the Rams, is to keep their offense off the field. Now, I know that's easier said than done when you're going up against a Von Miller, when you're going up against an Aaron Donald, but that Rams offensive line, which has been good majority of the year, it has to keep Jimmy G fresh enough to make the quick passes. I'm already under the impression that they're going to use Debo Samuels well because they've done it all year. You just do not turn the ball over. If you can win the turnover battle, then you are going to win the game. That's the 49ers. If you lose the turnover battle, which they could do, you're going to lose the game. Also, quiet as is kept, the 49ers, and shouts out to Mina Kimes, man. You saw, what was going on with Jeff George and coming at her for pretty much stating the fact is that if you look at all the teams, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the 49ers, and the Rams, the 49ers, by far, in my opinion, have the worst quarterback out of all teams. While Jimmy G has gotten them to a Super Bowl, I'm going to say, well, and they did lose, but they did get into the Super Bowl 2 years ago. It was mainly because of that defense that they have. In fact, they're riding on the defensive play, even though Debo Samuels has been great, even though Jimmy G did make some clutch passes against the Packers with George Kittle and stuff like that. Jimmy G is the worst quarterback out of all the quarterbacks playing, in my opinion. And that's a stat. That's something that has to be said. That's a way to lose the game when you're going up against a superior quarterback, in my opinion, and Matthew Stafford. Even though he hasn't won it, I mean, he's been in Detroit his whole career, so it's kind of hard to win. That's something that you can lose it if Jimmy G is pretty, and Jimmy G is the reason that you can lose this game. The defense played incredible against, the Green Bay Packers in like 0-degree weather. I think they're going to play a lot better, in SoFi Stadium. So it's Jimmy G can lose him the game. And the X Factor has pretty much been the same for the 49ers. It's actually Debo Samuels. Debo Samuels has been one of the best players in the league all year. The way that the 49ers use him is incredible, being half wide receiver, half running back, and effective at both. He is unlike anybody in the league, man. And he is their X Factor. Every single game he has a good game, they usually win. He was a big factor against the Packers a week ago, making big play after big play. He had good kick returns. Anytime Debo Samuels has a good game, they win. And if they're able to control, the clock, which will be in part, or a big part of that will be how Debo Samuels plays, they have a great shot, in my opinion. So I had my X factor would be Debo Samuels for the 49ers. Let's go over to the Rams. And this, to me, this had to happen. When you spend all the money that you spent on the off season, when you brought in some of the people that you brought in uh on expiring contracts and free agents moving forward, the Rams is the definition of win now mode. The Cincinnati Bengals, they have a young squad. They're going to have a young squad for a while. A lot of them on their rookie contract still. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're pretty much, I mean, you may lose some people in free agency, but your big guns, Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, they're going to be there. And the 49ers, you're still going to have to figure out what's going to happen with Jimmy G and Trey Lance and everything. But, Debo's coming back. George Kittle's coming back. The defense is coming back. This Rams team could look drastically different from next year. Now, Matthew Stafford's going to come back. Jalen Ramsey's probably going to come back. What's his name? Aaron Donald's going to come back. But you may not have Von Miller next year. You may not have Odell. You probably won't have Odell Beckham Jr. next year because he's going to cost a lot. You made these moves to win now, and this is what you're doing. And this is why people usually say they have to win. They didn't make these moves not to win. In fact, these moves will be so much they'll be criticized so much if they didn't win. And when you have a coach like Sean McVay, when you have a quarterback, especially after giving up a number one overall quarterback that's got you to a Super Bowl in Jared Goff, and you get a Matthew Stafford, who he's a proven commodity, of course, in the league. However, he was playing on a team in Detroit that didn't go anywhere. So it's going to be a big game. It's going to be a big game for him. And I think that kind of goes into how they're going to win this game. They understand that they need to win this game. They understand that this could be, I'm not going to say the last iteration because some of your big guns are still going to be there. But, I feel like a lot of people are rooting for this team. A lot of people are rooting for Matthew Stafford to win, especially seeing everything that he went through in Detroit. A lot of people are rooting for Odell Beckham, especially what happened in New York towards the end, what happened in Cleveland, the whole tenured. I think a lot of people, especially, and you hear that in the league, a lot of league people are rooting for this team. I think a lot of people expect the Bengals to be there in the near future, or moving forward, which is why a lot of people outside of Cincinnati is not really rooting. I'm not gonna say not rooting for them, but you can feel a lot of people kind of want these Rams to at least make it to the Super Bowl. And it could be the second consecutive year that the home team of the Super Bowl will be hosting. So it's to me, they're playing with motivation and this is how the Rams could win the game. They're playing with extra motivation. They're also playing with the superior quarterback. To me, Matthew Stafford is better than Jimmy G. They're playing with their offense is superior to the 49ers offense. Now, it's pretty much a wash between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, even though Kyle Shanahan is beating them in the overall record. But it really goes down to can this Rams offense outduel the 49ers defense? Cooper Kupp has been the best wide receiver in the league this year. Tyler Higbee has been big. Cam Akers has been big when he's been here, even though he had an injury most of the season. Sonny Michel has been big. Now, I don't know how effective the running game is going to be with this vaunted defense that is the 49ers, but it's going to be a big game. It's going to the Rams offense is going to have to score because you're gonna have to break down this 49ers defense. And I think they we'll see how it goes. That's how they can win. They're gonna have to win the turnover battle because Matthew Stafford does have a propensity to turn the ball over at times, bad situations. But if they control the turnover battle, they can definitely win the game. And of course, get the ball to your best players. Get the ball to Cooper Kupp. Get the ball to Odell Beckham Jr. You have a good shot. I think that the 49ers defense or offense is going to have their hands full with the pass rush that is the Rams. So the offense is going to have to come correct. You know what I mean? How can they lose this game? Well, they've already lost to the 49ers twice. And if they the last thing you want to do is you don't really want this a close game. Not saying you're going to blow them out. I respect the 49ers enough for that. But you do not want this to be a close game because you're playing pretty much right into the 49ers hands. And you don't want a mistake by Matthew Stafford to dictate the end of this game. That's what happened the first time when you had, of course, the interception in overtime, and that's kind of what you almost saw last week when you had turnover. You had like 4 turnovers in the second half. You do not want mistakes to ruin this game. You do not want the ball. You do not want Matthew Stafford's mistake to dictate this game. And they could lose this game by being a finesse team, because you already know what the 49ers are going to do. The 49ers are going to come in and try to be as rugged as possible. If the Rams do not match their physicality, they're going to lose. That's just how it's going to be. And the X factor, to me, the X factor is Sean McVay. Sean McVay has struggled against Kyle Shanahan. Of course, they both have like a mutual respect, but they also have a rivalry. I mean, they both were on the Washington squad. And you always want to beat your fellow teammate, I guess you can say. So their X factors, can Sean McVay call up plays and do what he has to do you don't want to get out coached. And there has been a couple games where he has been out coached by Kyle Shanahan. So I say the X factor is Sean McVay. And the winner, who do I have is going to win this game? I think it's going to be the Rams. I think the Rams are, they kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat Goliath last week in Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And to me, they're hearing that, you just lost to this team twice in the regular season. Matthew Stafford's playing incredible. He had the play of his life a week ago. So I just think the 49ers are riding high, right? I mean, 49ers. I think, well, you can also say the same thing for the 49ers. The 49ers just beat Goliath as far as they beat the number 1 overall seed in the Packers in Lambeau. But I just think that Jimmy G they've been able to win a game. They won a game without a touchdown pass. In fact, I think Jimmy G has only thrown 1 touchdown pass in the playoffs. I don't think that's good. I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to if Jimmy G beats you, Jimmy G beats you. I think that and I don't know if he has the capability of doing that yet, or right now, or period, especially against this Rams defense. So I have the Rams winning this game. So I have a Super Bowl of the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Rams. I think that's what a lot of people expect. I think that's what a lot of people want. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals pull up an upset. I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers pull up an upset. I'll probably be more surprised with the Bengals because of who they're playing. But I think it's going to be a great divisional championship on Sunday, man. I'm excited. Let's move forward. So one of the biggest news, or arguably the biggest news that happened this week, was about Big Ben. Big Ben officially retires from the NFL. How do I tackle this? Let me speak about the on-field. Let me speak about on-field first. Big Ben was the first Josh Allen. Now, Big Ben never had the legs like Josh Allen. He was never the runner that Josh Allen is. But when you look at Josh Allen, you think of big, rugged, cannon of an arm. That was Big Ben. Big Ben was just a tank. Like there would be linebackers that would hit Big Ben straight on, and Big Ben doesn't fall. I mean, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. We all remember the Santonio Holmes pass and catch. Uh, Big Ben, I think he was fifth all time in touchdowns. The thing about Big Ben that is probably frustrating the most is that he had talent that a Tom Brady didn't have, because Tom Brady didn't really have the cannon of an arm that Big Ben did, or the physical stature. Even though I think Tom Brady's like 6'6", 6'5", 6'7". Big Ben is rugged. He didn't, but this really Big Ben is a cautionary tale, I guess, to say this is what happens when I'm not gonna say cautionary tale because he did win 2 Super Bowls. But Big Ben is a prime example of somebody that never reached their potential, which is crazy to think, because more than likely he would be in the Hall of Fame. He was 2 Super Bowls. He was a touchdown leader a couple years, I think 3 or 4 years, but it's documented and it's famous that Big Ben never really took the off season seriously as far as working out. He is famous for that, and you can tell. I mean, he's 40 years old, and he's an old 40, especially when we talk about the NFL. And when you see his counterparts like a Tom Brady, like an Aaron Rodgers, still playing at a supreme level past 40, and then you look at Big Ben, whose arm has been shot for a couple years, you can tell that I just feel when you look at, now I understand that research is different from when Big Ben came into the league and people like Russell Wilson. But when you see quarterbacks like Russell Wilson spend like $1 million a year on his body, because he understands that his body is the breadwinner. And Big Ben and Tom Brady even knows that, which is why he's more than likely gonna come back another year, 45 or 46 or something like that. That it's weird talking about it as far as Big Ben, because he is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He has all these accolades. He just doesn't have. He's never really considered like. I just feel he would probably play longer and be a lot more effective towards the end of his career, if he would have took his body seriously. And again, it's not me making stuff up. It's documented that he wasn't a workout warrior. It'd be different if I wasn't a workout warrior, because I'm not a professional athlete. You know what I'm saying? Like, I go hoop a lot, but outside of that, like, and I'm trying to look good, but outside of that, my body's not making me money. So I would understand if I don't put in the same amount of time in my body as like a Russell Wilson or something. But you have Big Ben, who your body is your. I mean, look at the Steelers these last few years. And what is our biggest gripe with the Steelers? They cannot push the ball down the field because Big Ben's arm is shot. Even if you look at Drew Brees' end of his career, which his arm was pretty much shot. Drew Brees, and he didn't have as much Super Bowls, but a lot of people look at Drew Brees a lot differently than Big Ben. So, but again, Big Ben is still going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. Again, I think he's 5th in passing yards or touchdowns or something like that. 2-time Super Bowl champion. Shouts out to Big Ben. But one thing that needs to be talked about is the off the field situations with Big Ben. I understand it's a different sport, but it's funny to me. And it's always, I always sit back and watch how people talk about the same thing just differently with different people. Now, again, I understand that baseball is a different sport, but we just had a conversation last episode about Barry Bonds not making it to the Hall of Fame, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schillings, because of steroid use. When we talk about Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, and of course Kurt Schillings is just some of his personal views is a little out there. But the argument is, I mean, Barry Bonds is hands down one of the greatest baseball players to ever walk the face of this earth. And people, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens is one of the best baseball players to ever live. He's not in the Hall of Fame because of steroids. And I've heard people that are okay with that. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that are not, but I've heard people are okay with that. Michael Vick. Another conversation that was going around is Michael Vick, or should Michael Vick be a Hall of Famer? No, he didn't win a Super Bowl. But kind of like we talk about Yao Ming, right? If you look at Yao Ming's pure numbers, just pure numbers, no offense to Yao Ming, but if you look at his pure numbers, Yao Ming is not a Hall of Famer. If that was the case, then there's a lot of people that should be a Hall of Fame. Yao Ming is in the Hall of Fame because what he did for his culture, what he did for, NBA's footprint in, overseas, or what they did in China, what he, how big he was as far as an international player. Again, if you look at straight numbers, while he had some very productive seasons, Yao Ming is not a Hall of Famer. But if you look at the impact, he is. Go back to Mike Vick. Mike Vick's impact, not only on the game of football, not only on the Falcons, but Michael Vick's impact as far as culturally is almost like the only person that I can kind of see have the same impact was Allen Iverson. And if you look at just pure numbers on the field, Michael Vick should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But what you're hearing is because of what happened with the Dogs. Because of what happened with the Dogs, more than likely, Michael Vick may not even make the Hall of Fame. Don't forget about the first round or first ballot. He may not touch the Hall of Fame because of what happened with the Dogs. Not the fact that he was incredible in Atlanta. He was also incredible after spending a couple years in jail. He was incredible for the Eagles. I'm just going to talk about the dog stuff, and these are conversations I've heard this week, or since Big Ben officially retired. Now let's get back to Big Ben. As uncomfortable as it is for people to talk about, Big Ben has multiple sexual assault cases. Now, of course, he wasn't proven. I guess it was proven that he didn't do it, or not. Let me not say that. He was never convicted of anything, but he has multiple. He had multiple sexual assault accusations. Multiple. Yet I haven't heard one person bring that up when we talk about. All I've heard is Big Ben is a for sure first ballot Hall of Famer. You know who else had sexual assault allegations that actually it came out that it wasn't even true, and people still held it to his name? Kobe Bryant. While that didn't stop him from going to the Hall of Fame, there are still people to this day, after it's been proven that the young lady lied, there's people to this day that still look at Kobe Bryant and say, hey, well, he did rape that woman in Phoenix. Yet and still, Big Ben has multiple sexual assault allegations as big as rape allegations. And not one person says, well, maybe he's, he's still going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. That really shows you. That shows you right there. If anybody wants to question how African Americans are seen to writers, to Hall of Fame voters, to scouts, to coaches, to analysts, not all of them, but how a lot of African American athletes are viewed compared to Caucasian athletes. Look at Michael Vick and look at Big Ben. Now, I understand Big Ben has accomplished more than Michael Vick. But if you ask me, both are Hall of Famers because of their on-field influence, because of what they did on field. However, there is a strong possibility that Michael Vick will not make the Hall of Fame because of what happened with the dogs, which, by the way, if you want to be real, he was not even fighting dogs at it. It was just happening at his estate. There's a very good shot that Michael Vick will not make the Hall of Fame because of that. Dogs. I understand how precious dogs are, but dogs. Yet, there is a strong possibility that Big Ben will make the Hall of Fame first ballot. Yet, he has multiple rape allegations and cases against him. Now, I don't know how those cases ended, but I know that he ain't doing no jail time. And I know that people swept that under the rug. It's unfortunate. And I'm not one of those people that like to bring up somebody's lowest point at their high. I don't like, somebody bringing up retirement or somebody winning a championship and say, hey, remember he did have this, or y'all love him so much after he did it. I don't like doing that. But I don't think it is fair. I know it's not fair how African Americans are viewed in the media at times. African American athletes are viewed in the media if they mess up. Yet and still, there are athletes like Ben Roethlisberger that have multiple rape allegations against him, and nobody talks about it. No, except Black women on Twitter. Everyone says he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And yes, while Michael Vick and Big Ben has accomplished more than Michael Vick. But people aren't saying that Michael Vick won't be a Hall of Famer because of what he did on the field. They're saying he possibly won't be a Hall of Famer because of what happened off the field. When, if you ask me, what Big Ben did off the field is 10 times worse than what Michael Vick did off the field. And you can hate me for it. I love dogs as well. But I know that if you ask me what's worse, dog fighting or rape, give me dog fighting for 200, Alex. I think they're both bad, but I'm not trying to rape nobody. Multiple times, by the way. So, hey, but shouts out to Big Ben for officially retiring. First ballot Hall of Famer. Let's move forward. The Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett to be their new head coach. Why this is such big news? Because he was the former Packers offensive coordinator, and we all know that the Broncos have been the Broncos are one of the teams that was in bed, or that are in bed trying to get Aaron Rodgers if he does decide to leave Green Bay. And the same way I feel about David Culley getting the job for Houston is kind of how I feel about Nathaniel Hackett. It's not really fair. You didn't hire Nathaniel Hackett because he's such a good coach. First and foremost, Matt LaFleur calls the plays, who is the head coach, of course, for the Green Bay Packers. He calls the plays for Green Bay, while, of course, Nathaniel Hackett helped build those plays and can throw insight. Matt LaFleur, at the end of the day, calls those plays. So the only reason why you're hiring Hackett is to get Aaron Rodgers. Now imagine if they don't get Aaron Rodgers. Do you think would Nathaniel Hackett then be the right choice? In fact, I don't see the Broncos keeping Nathaniel Hackett for 2 years or for a year or two after this season, after next season, if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, I don't see them keeping Nathaniel Hackett, and that's unfair to him, and that's not right for the organization. I mean, again, it goes back to the David Culley thing. The David Culley I put money if David Culley was their head coach, and he said, Deshaun Watson said, all right, because David Culley's the head coach, I'm going to stay. I put money David Culley would be the head coach. He did not do a bad job this year. He was working with a team that was a garbage team. You trade Mark Ingram, your number one option at quarterback, and Deshaun Watson didn't show up. Tyrod Taylor got hurt throughout the season. So you're playing with a third string rookie quarterback and still won 4 games, matching what you did last year previous with Deshaun Watson, with Brandon Cooks. Yet and still, because you hired David Culley, because Deshaun Watson said that he wants an African-American coach, you hired David Culley not because you think he's qualified to be a head coach, but you do that to try to appease Deshaun Watson. Because it doesn't happen, now David Culley's out of there. What do you think is going to happen with Nathaniel Hackett? First and foremost, he could be a great coach, but he is an offensive coordinator for a team that is based really, their strongest point is their defense. And you got to think about it. If Aaron Rodgers does not go to Denver, your starting quarterback is going to be between Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. I love Teddy. He ain't no starting quarterback for a championship caliber team. And we all know Drew Lock. Drew Lock's Hall of Fame moment was him rapping Young Jeezy on the sideline. He ain't done nothing since or before or since. So it's just unfair to Nathaniel Hackett. I don't even know if he's good enough to be a head coach. We'll see. But the only reason, in my opinion, they hired him is to hope to get Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers has spoken glowingly of Hackett, even though, and yes, he was the offensive coordinator for the Packers, even though Matt LaFleur calls the plays, who is the head coach. So it's not right. Now, if they do get Aaron Rodgers, then I guess it paid off. But what if they don't? If they don't, you're pretty much. Imagine if Denver does not get Aaron Rodgers and they have a poor season next year, which is very likely going to happen because they don't have good. They have a good core. I mean, you have Sutton, you have Melvin Gordon, you have Judy, but you don't have the quarterback. So I don't expect them to have a good year if they don't get Aaron Rodgers. You think Nathaniel Hackett, especially when you hire this also goes back. I get why they hired him to attract Aaron Rodgers, because if you want to hire an offensive coordinator, why not hire the best offensive coordinator in the league right now, and that's Eric Bieniemy. Could you see what Eric Bieniemy has transformed that Kansas City Chiefs the offense into? Yeah, man, it's unfair. It's unfair to Nathaniel Hackett if they don't end up getting Aaron Rodgers, and that's pretty much, you can say it's he has a great shot. No, you can. It's clear why they hired Nathaniel Hackett. clear. And if they don't, kind of like the David Culley situation, if they don't get that prize, if they don't get that big fish, if David Culley was not able to, or if the hiring of David Culley did not keep Deshaun Watson, now you see where David Culley is, unemployed. Nathaniel Hackett, if Nathaniel Hackett does not have a good season because they were not able to attract Aaron Rodgers, I don't see how he keeps his job, and that's unfortunate for him. So, also the Bears hired Matt Eberflus for a head coach, who was a defensive coordinator. I don't know if that's a good hire because the star player is Justin Fields, and you're going into a second season, which is pretty much like the most important time of his development. And you're hiring a defensive coach for a team that your strongest point is the defense. And you just fired a defensive-minded coach, and it didn't work out. Not saying that Eberflus is going to be, the same as Matt Nagy, but Matt Nagy is a defensive-minded coach, and while the defense was all right, their offense suffered. And I would hope that you'd get a coach that is able to connect with Justin Fields. Now, if Matt Eberflus is able to do that, shouts out to him. But I would have gone with maybe Eric Bieniemy, Brian Leftwich. I'm just saying. But it's damn near impossible for African Americans to have a coaching job. Even though there are some incredible candidates, man. Brian Flores still doesn't have a job, which one of they can still get the job. Brian Flores can take the Patriots job. Like, I can see it. I'm just saying, like, it's not only is it tough for African Americans to get a head coaching job, i.e., there's only one of them right now. But it's also tough to retain it, because did I say the New England Patriots? I meant I did not mean the New England Patriots. I meant the Houston Texans job. But it's hard for them, it's hard for them to retain that job because they're working with nothing. So, but shouts out to Nathaniel Hackett and shouts out to Matt Eberflus. So, yeah, moving forward. And lastly, before we go, the NBA All-Star starters were announced the other day. Of course, KD and LeBron are the captains, and I really don't have a problem with much. I mean, the Eastern Conference is Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Trae Young, and DeMar DeRozan. The only problem I have with the East is DeMar DeRozan has played power forward for the Bulls the entire year. So I don't understand why he's not in the guard position. I mean, the forward position. I kind of understand as far as you want to reward the Chicago Bulls for their play, and DeMar DeRozan has clearly been their best player, and he's not going to get a start over KD, over Giannis, over Joel Embiid, which are the forwards. So you move him to guard because that's technically his position is, and it has always been until this year, shooting guard. So I understand. But again, the Bulls have played him he's been the power forward the entire year. So I don't understand why he's that. People are saying that James Harden's been snubbed. No, I think at this point, if he would have been a starter, it's due to name alone. He's played well in certain instances of the season, but as a totality of the season, he hasn't played that well. As of late, he has, but not that, especially not the entire first half of the season. So no. A lot of people were saying, what about Zach Levine? I can see that. However, Zach Levine was injured. So I also understand why he didn't play. The one thing I will say too is Trae Young has had a pretty decent season. However, I would have awarded the other shooting or the other guard spot to Darius Garland. While I do think that Darius Garland more than likely will be a reserve, I just think that Darius Garland has played well enough to be I think Darius Garland's played well enough to be a starter. You know, he's the the driving force of a team that is Cleveland that nobody had expectations for. Nobody thought they would be good. And I think they're sitting as like third in the East. And he's been incredible all year, even with Colin Sexton being out. In fact, I think Colin Sexton being out helped him kind of elevate his game, but he's been great. So I would have awarded him. While yes, I probably still would have Trae Young as an all-star. I just would have Darius Garland as a starter. But I don't really have a problem with it. Of course, Kevin Durant won't be playing in the All-Star game due to injury. So I can see I can see a Jason Tatum taking his spot. I can see a Jimmy Butler possibly taking his spot. He'll still be the captain, so I think he'll still vote for the team. But Kevin Durant won't be playing due to injury, so more than likely Jason Tatum or maybe Jimmy Butler will take his spot. So those are the starters for the East. And the West, everybody everybody has been up in arms. I mean, it's been LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, John Morant. Everyone's been up in arms about Andrew Wiggins being a starter. But you got to think about it, man. I understand, but what about Luka? First of all, Luka plays guard, so I wouldn't put Luka over Steph, nor would I put Luka over John Morant. Devin Booker, guard. Chris Paul, guard. DeJounte Murray, who's been incredible, guard. So if you look at the forwards, right? Who would you start over Andrew Wiggins right now? Draymond Green could be the case, but he's injured. Paul George, he may not come back this year. I understand. I think the biggest argument would probably be Karl Anthony Towns. But I think the voters won more voters for Andrew Wiggins. Also, they kind of rewarded winning because the Golden State Warriors is third in the Western Conference, or second in the Western Conference. I think second in the entire league. And Andrew Wiggins had an incredible season. Andrew Wiggins has had his best season by far. Maybe not statistically, but of course, impact and his importance to a team and shot making, and like he's had an incredible year. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it, man. Of course, you knew LeBron James was going to make it. You knew Nikola Jokic. I'm glad that they rewarded John Morant. John Morant's had an incredible season, MVP worthy season, or at least MVP candidate season. He's been great. And Steph Curry, same thing. In fact, every single person on the West, except for Andrew Wiggins, will be in the MVP discussion. LeBron, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, John Morant. So, and that's no slight to Andrew Wiggins. But you're playing alongside Steph Curry. But yeah, a lot of people's like, why couldn't Luka be there? Because he's a guard. Why couldn't I don't know. We just went over it. The only I guess forward you could kind of argue about is Karl Anthony Towns or Draymond Green. And Draymond Green has missed some time and more than likely would miss the All-Star game due to his health. And Karl Anthony Towns, they've been losing. They're 24-24, and the Golden State Warriors are 36-13. So, and it's fan vote. So most of the fans voted for Andrew Wiggins, and I have no problem with it. So, but there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you bearing with me with what we have. Again, I'm not home for all my even if the audio sounds a little different, or if it looks different. Again, I'm not home, so I appreciate it due to work. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, long sleeve, joggers, sweater, the link's in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. So whatever your preference is, I got you. Just click on the link below. Also, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. Also, if you can, leave a comment, leave a like. I'm trying to get the algorithms going, and I want more people to I guess come to the Unpopular Podcast and listen to, I guess, my takes on sports. So, but again, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And until next time, Much love.